Welcome to Depth Doctrine, where we examine the philosophical foundations that everyone else takes for granted. Today, we're talking about Stoicism, the ancient philosophy that's experiencing a massive revival. Everywhere you look, someone's quoting Marcus Aurelius, teaching emotional control, or promoting the Stoic way of life as the solution to modern anxiety. And I'm not here to tell you Stoicism is worthless. Far from it. But there's something crucial that the modern Stoicism movement isn't telling you. Something that Marcus Aurelius himself understood, but that gets conveniently left out of the Instagram quotes and productivity podcasts. And it's this. The very practices designed to make you stronger can actually make you weaker, more rigid, more disconnected, and less capable of genuine human flourishing. This isn't about tearing down Stoicism. This is about understanding what the Stoics actually taught versus what modern culture has turned it into. Because when you only get half the philosophy, you can end up using it in ways that would have horrified the ancient Stoics themselves. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Marcus Aurelius warned against the very type of emotional suppression that modern Stoicism promotes. You'll see how ancient Stoicism was about freedom, while modern Stoicism often creates a new form of prison. And most importantly, you'll learn how to practice Stoic principles without falling into the traps that Marcus Aurelius himself identified. We're living through a Stoicism boom. Ryan Holiday's daily Stoic empire has millions of followers. Tech executives quote Epictetus in board meetings. Navy SEALs study Marcus Aurelius. Athletes credit Stoic philosophy for their mental toughness. And millions of people are discovering ancient wisdom that genuinely helps them navigate modern life. The core message is compelling. You can't control external events, but you can control your response to them. Don't waste energy on things outside your control. Focus on your character and virtue. Accept what happens with equanimity. Develop emotional resilience through rational thinking. This resonates powerfully in our chaotic world. We're overwhelmed by information, bombarded by news we can't influence, and constantly comparing ourselves to curated social media lives. Stoicism offers a framework for maintaining inner peace despite external chaos. And for many people, it works. The modern Stoicism movement makes specific promises. You'll stop being controlled by your emotions. You'll develop unshakable mental toughness. You'll stop caring what other people think. You'll become more productive and focused, and you'll achieve a state of calm rationality regardless of circumstances. These promises are seductive, especially for men who've been told that emotional expression is weakness, for anyone struggling with anxiety or depression, for high achievers trying to optimize their performance, and for people who feel powerless in an unstable world. But here's what's fascinating. When you actually read Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, the most famous Stoic text, you find something very different from what modern Stoicism teaches. You find warnings, contradictions, and a much more nuanced understanding of human nature than the Instagram quotes suggest. Modern Stoicism has become an industry. There are Stoic journals, Stoic apps, Stoic coaching programs, and Stoic merchandise. This isn't necessarily bad. Ancient philosophy should be accessible, but commercialization creates incentives to simplify, to make Stoicism more palatable, to turn it into a productivity tool rather than a profound philosophical practice. The ancient Stoics were trying to answer fundamental questions about how to live a good life in the face of mortality, suffering, and uncertainty. Modern Stoicism often reduces this to life hacks for emotional control or mental toughness for business success. The depth gets lost in translation. To understand what Marcus Aurelius really taught, we need to understand what Meditations actually is. It wasn't written as a philosophy book for public consumption. It was Marcus's private journal, his attempt to remind himself of Stoic principles during the most difficult period of his life. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome during a time of plague, war, and political instability. He was watching his empire crumble, his children die, and his body fail him. Meditations is essentially his therapy journal, his way of talking himself through unbearable circumstances using Stoic philosophy. This context is crucial because it reveals something modern Stoicism misses. Marcus wasn't naturally calm and rational. He was struggling. He was using Stoic principles as tools to manage overwhelming grief, anxiety, and despair. The book isn't evidence that Stoicism works perfectly. It's evidence that even the most committed Stoic had to fight constantly against his natural emotional responses. When you read Meditations carefully, you find Marcus warning himself about the dangers of Stoic practice. In Book 5, he writes, "Don't be ashamed to need help. Like a soldier storming a wall, you have a mission to accomplish. And if you've been wounded and you need a comrade to pull you up, so what?" This directly contradicts modern Stoicism's emphasis on self-reliance and not needing others. Marcus is acknowledging that the Stoic ideal of complete self-sufficiency is sometimes impossible and even harmful. He's giving himself permission to be human. In Book 7, Marcus writes, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. Above all, he who possesses resources in himself, which he need only contemplate to secure immediate ease of mind." This is the quote everyone knows. But immediately after, he adds, "But if you find it difficult to achieve this, then go somewhere else, and don't be ashamed to need help." Marcus is saying, yes, try to find peace within yourself, but if you can't, it's okay to seek external support. Modern Stoicism often presents the first part without the second, creating an impossible standard that leaves people feeling like failures when they can't achieve perfect inner peace. Here's the most revealing thing about Meditations. Marcus Aurelius had to write it at all. If Stoic practice had made him truly tranquil and emotionally controlled, why did he need to constantly remind himself of Stoic principles? Why did he write essentially the same ideas over and over, as if trying to convince himself? The book itself is evidence that Stoicism isn't a destination you reach. It's a constant practice you maintain against your natural human tendencies. Marcus never achieved the perfect Stoic calm that modern Stoicism promises. He spent his entire life fighting for it and never fully attained it. This isn't a failure of Stoicism or of Marcus. It's a revelation about human nature. The ancient Stoics understood that perfect rationality and emotional control were ideals to strive toward, not states you could permanently achieve. Modern Stoicism often presents them as achievable goals, setting people up for inevitable disappointment. The ancient Stoics distinguished between emotions, pathe, and rational judgments. They didn't advocate suppressing all feelings, they advocated not being controlled by irrational passions. This is a crucial distinction that modern Stoicism often misses. When modern Stoicism teaches you not to be affected by external events, it can easily slide into emotional suppression, pushing down feelings rather than processing them. You tell yourself, "This doesn't bother me," when it actually does. You present a calm exterior while anxiety churns inside. You mistake numbness for equanimity. The psychological research is clear. Emotional suppression is harmful. It increases stress, damages relationships, and correlates with depression and anxiety. Emotional regulation, acknowledging feelings while choosing how to respond, is healthy. But it's easy to confuse the two, especially when Stoic practice emphasizes not being disturbed by events. Marcus Aurelius himself struggled with this. Throughout Meditations, you can feel him trying to talk himself out of grief over his children's deaths, frustration with incompetent subordinates, and fear about his own mortality. He's not successfully eliminating these emotions. He's desperately trying to manage them. The text reveals the struggle, not the triumph. Modern Stoicism has become particularly popular among men, often explicitly marketed as a philosophy for developing masculine strength and resilience. This isn't entirely wrong. The ancient Stoics did value courage and self-discipline, but it's led to Stoicism being weaponized to reinforce toxic aspects of traditional masculinity. The message becomes, real men don't show emotion, don't need help, and maintain perfect control at all times. Stoicism gets used to justify emotional unavailability in relationships, to dismiss mental health struggles as weakness, and to create impossible standards of masculine performance. This would have troubled the ancient Stoics. Epictetus, himself a former slave, emphasized compassion and human connection. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about his love for his teachers and his gratitude for his relationships. The Stoics valued emotional bonds. They just didn't want to be destroyed by their loss. Modern Stoicism's focus on toughness and invulnerability often misses the ancient emphasis on love, gratitude, and human interdependence. It takes the control your emotions message while discarding the love your fellow humans message, creating an incomplete and potentially harmful philosophy. Perhaps the most significant distortion is how Stoicism has been absorbed into productivity culture. Ancient Stoicism was about living virtuously and preparing for death. Modern Stoicism often becomes a tool for achieving more, working harder, and optimizing performance. The Stoic emphasis on focusing only on what you control gets reinterpreted as, don't let feelings interfere with productivity. The teaching about accepting external events becomes, don't let setbacks slow you down. The practice of negative visualization, imagining loss to reduce attachment, becomes a technique for managing business risk. This is almost the opposite of what the ancient Stoics intended. They were trying to free people from the endless pursuit of external goods like wealth, status, and achievement. Modern Stoicism often uses their techniques to pursue those very things more effectively. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself that his position as emperor was meaningless, that fame was worthless, and that he would soon be forgotten. Modern Stoicism tends to skip those parts and focus on the bits about mental toughness and emotional control that can be used for career advancement. Stoicism emphasizes self-sufficiency and not depending on external validation. This is valuable. You shouldn't need constant approval to feel okay about yourself. But taken too far, it can justify isolation and disconnection from others. If you believe you should be completely self-sufficient and unaffected by external events, including other people's actions, you might stop investing in relationships. Why be vulnerable if the Stoic ideal is invulnerability? Why seek deep connection if you're supposed to be equally content alone? This creates what psychologists call defensive self-sufficiency, using independence as armor against the risk of rejection or abandonment. It looks like Stoic strength, but is actually fear-driven avoidance. The ancient Stoics didn't advocate this. Marcus Aurelius wrote beautifully about his relationships. Seneca's letters to Lucilius are full of warmth and personal disclosure. The Stoics believed in cosmopolitanism, seeing all humans as part of one community. Modern Stoicism's emphasis on self-reliance can undermine this communal vision. So what were the ancient Stoics actually trying to achieve? Not emotional suppression or productivity optimization. They were pursuing what they called eudaimonia, usually translated as flourishing or living well. For the Stoics, flourishing meant living according to nature and reason, developing the 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Maintaining right relationships with others and the cosmos, accepting mortality and impermanence without despair, and finding freedom through understanding what's truly in your control. This is much richer than "don't let things bother you." It's a comprehensive vision of human excellence that includes emotional wisdom, ethical behavior, and spiritual understanding. The Stoic ideal of apatheia is often mistranslated as apathy, not caring about anything. This is completely wrong. Apatheia means freedom from being controlled by irrational passions, not freedom from all feeling. The Stoics distinguished between pathe, irrational, destructive passions, and eupatheiai, good feelings based on correct judgments. They wanted to eliminate pathe, but cultivate eupatheiai, feelings like joy, caution, rational fear, and wish, rational desire. Marcus Aurelius experienced joy at his children's laughter, gratitude for his teacher's wisdom, and love for his wife. He wasn't emotionally dead. He was trying not to be destroyed by grief, rage, or fear, which is very different from feeling nothing. Modern Stoicism often misses this distinction, promoting a kind of emotional flatness that the ancient Stoics would have seen as a failure, not success. A Stoic sage would feel deeply. They just wouldn't be controlled by those feelings. Ancient Stoicism was fundamentally a spiritual practice, not a life hack system. The Stoics believed in a rational divine order to the universe. They called it logos, or providence, saw themselves as part of a cosmic whole, practiced contemplation and meditation as spiritual disciplines, and aimed for a kind of mystical union with the rational order of nature. This spiritual dimension is almost entirely absent from modern Stoicism, which presents it as a secular philosophy for practical living. This isn't wrong. Stoic techniques work without the metaphysics, but something important is lost. The spiritual context gave ancient Stoicism its depth and meaning. When Marcus Aurelius accepted difficult events, he wasn't just practicing cognitive reframing. He was submitting to what he saw as divine will. When he contemplated his mortality, he was placing himself in a cosmic context that made his individual suffering meaningful. Without this spiritual dimension, Stoicism can become merely a coping mechanism rather than a path to genuine transformation and transcendence. This is where Nietzsche becomes relevant. Nietzsche despised Stoicism, and understanding why illuminates what's missing from modern Stoic practice. Nietzsche argued that Stoicism was a philosophy of resignation disguised as strength. The Stoics claimed to accept nature and live according to reason, but Nietzsche saw this as giving up on changing the world. Instead of fighting against suffering and injustice, Stoics just tried to not be bothered by them. Nietzsche wrote, "You want to live according to nature. Oh, you noble Stoics, what deceptive words these are. Imagine a being like nature, wasteful beyond measure, indifferent beyond measure, without purpose and consideration, without mercy and justice, fertile and desolate and uncertain at the same time. Imagine indifference itself as a power. How could you live according to this indifference?" His point: nature is chaotic, cruel, and meaningless. The Stoics projected their own rational values onto nature and then claimed to be accepting nature. They weren't accepting reality, they were accepting their idealized version of reality. For Nietzsche, a true strength meant creating your own values despite nature's indifference, embracing suffering as the raw material for growth, and actively transforming yourself rather than just accepting circumstances. He saw Stoic acceptance as passive and life-denying. Whether you agree with Nietzsche or not, his critique reveals something important. Stoicism can become a way of avoiding life's challenges rather than engaging with them. It can turn acceptance into resignation, equanimity into passivity. So how do we use Stoic wisdom without falling into these traps? How do we practice emotional wisdom without emotional suppression, self-reliance without isolation, and acceptance without resignation? The Stoics taught that you control only your own thoughts and actions, not external events. This is true, but incomplete. You also have influence over many things: your relationships, your environment, your opportunities. Don't use "it's outside my control" as an excuse for passivity. Practice Stoic acceptance for things truly beyond your influence: the weather, other people's opinions, past events. But actively engage with things you can influence, even if you can't fully control them. This is the balance Marcus Aurelius himself practiced as emperor, accepting the constraints of his position while working tirelessly to improve his empire. When difficult emotions arise, don't immediately try to reason them away. First, acknowledge them. I'm feeling anxious about this presentation. That's a real feeling. Then examine the thoughts underlying the emotion. I'm anxious because I'm imagining failure and judgment. Then, apply Stoic wisdom. But I can only control my preparation and delivery, not the outcome or others' reactions. This is emotional regulation, not suppression. You're not denying feelings. You're working with them skillfully. The ancient Stoics called this prosos, attention or mindfulness. It's about awareness, not elimination. Practice Stoic self-sufficiency in the sense of not needing constant external validation, but maintain deep human connections. Be vulnerable with people you trust. Seek help when you need it. Remember Marcus Aurelius' advice about accepting help from comrades. The goal isn't to need nothing from anyone. That's not human flourishing. That's isolation. The goal is to not be destroyed when relationships change or end, while still investing fully in them while they last. Resist the temptation to turn Stoic practice into another optimization tool. The question isn't, how can Stoicism make me more productive? It's, how can Stoicism help me live more wisely? Sometimes wisdom means working less, not more. Sometimes it means accepting that you're not going to achieve your goals. Sometimes it means prioritizing relationships over achievement. Let Stoicism guide you toward what actually matters, not just toward doing more efficiently. Practice amor fati, love of fate, for circumstances you truly cannot change. But also practice what we might call creative resistance, actively working to change unjust or harmful circumstances when you can. Marcus Aurelius accepted the plague and the barbarian invasions as outside his control, but he didn't just accept them passively. He worked tirelessly to manage them. He combined Stoic acceptance of reality with determined action to improve it. This is the balance modern Stoicism often misses. Stoicism offers profound wisdom for navigating life's challenges. The ancient Stoics understood human nature deeply and developed practices that genuinely help people flourish. But like any philosophy, it can be misunderstood, distorted, and used in ways that harm rather than help. Modern Stoicism has made ancient wisdom accessible to millions, which is genuinely valuable. But in the process of popularization, crucial nuances have been lost. The emphasis on emotional control can become emotional suppression. The focus on self-reliance can become isolation. The practice of acceptance can become resignation. Marcus Aurelius himself understood these dangers. His Meditations reveals not a man who achieved perfect Stoic calm, but a man who struggled daily with human emotions while trying to respond to them wisely. He gave himself permission to be human, to need help, to grieve and fear and doubt, while still striving to act with wisdom and virtue. That's the real lesson. Stoicism isn't about becoming invulnerable or emotionless. It's about remaining fully human while responding to life's challenges with wisdom, courage, and grace. It's about feeling deeply while not being destroyed by those feelings. It's about accepting what you cannot change while actively improving what you can. The strongest version of yourself isn't the one who needs nothing and feels nothing. It's the one who can face life's full emotional reality with wisdom, maintain meaningful connections despite the risk of loss, and find freedom not through invulnerability, but through understanding. That's what Marcus Aurelius was really teaching. And that's the Stoicism worth practicing. What's your experience with Stoicism? Have you found it genuinely helpful, or have you noticed yourself falling into some of these traps? Emotional suppression, isolation, or using it as just another productivity tool? I'm genuinely curious about your perspective. Share your thoughts in the comments. If this video challenged your understanding of Stoicism, if it revealed dimensions you hadn't considered, then you're in the right place. At Depth Doctrine, we don't just repeat popular wisdom, we examine its foundations, reveal its blind spots, and help you think more deeply about ideas you thought you understood. Subscribe for more content like this. We have videos coming on why authenticity is actually impossible, the dangerous side of following your passion, and what Nietzsche really meant about the will to power. Not the simplified versions you see everywhere else. Hit that like button if this made you think, even if you disagreed with parts of it. Your engagement helps this kind of depth reach more people who are hungry for substance over surface. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and remember, depth over surface, always. This is Depth Doctrine. Thanks for going deep with me.